Hi everyone, welcome to Rachel Pichler Yoga. My name is Rachel. Today is Flexible Friday, so we are doing splits prep, and I'm calling it splits prep for a reason, because we are not going to go all the way down into the splits. So before I scare anyone off, don't worry too much about that. I do suggest having some props today. So if you've got blocks that you use for yoga, these are great. If you don't, I know a lot of you don't have any actual yoga props, so just use things that are around your house. You can take some pillows off your bed, pillows off your couch, whatever. I am using two because when I put weight on them, they shrink down. So if you want to grab two, or maybe even three, whatever's going to work for you. Just have some props, ideally. And so feel free to take a moment to go grab those, pause the video, come on back when you're ready. And then another thing is, you guys take things at your own level. So we're going to be stretching our hip flexors and our hamstrings. So even if splits is not a goal for you, coming all the way down into the splits, that's completely fine. You're still going to get a really awesome stretch for your hip flexors as well as your hamstrings, really your entire legs. So what have you got to lose, right? You guys grab your props, find some space, and let's get started. And don't forget to like this video if you enjoy it, leave a comment if you feel like it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So let's get started in child's pose today. Bringing your knees out nice and wide. Your big toes can come together. Sitting the hips back towards the heels, and then just resting your forehead either on the mat or using one of your cushions or blocks as a little pillow. And you can reach your arms above your head here. Just bringing some length into your spine and taking a few nice deep breaths. Just taking this time to let go of your day. Starting to scan your body. And most importantly, just feeling the breath moving in and out, either through the nose or through the mouth. Awesome work, you guys. Stay for 3 more. Nice, slow, deep breath. With your next inhale, make it the longest inhale you've taken today. Filling your lungs completely with air, and then just pause at the top. Hold your breath for a moment. And exhale nice and slowly. Lengthen your exhalation. Awesome work, you guys. Start to lift your forehead, lift your chest off the mat. You can walk your hands in. We're going to come onto our hands and knees. So tabletop position, and then we're going to bring our right foot forward. So we're going to come into a lunge. So getting into the first stretch today for our hips is going to be a little flow between our hip flexor and our hamstring. So we're going to flow between a low lunge, so sinking the hips down and forward, bending the front knee, and half splits. So sending the hips back and straightening that front leg for that hamstring stretch. So we're just going to bend the front knee, sink the hips forward, go until you feel that stretch to that left hip flexor. So sink the hips forward and then send those hips back. And you can stay in each position as long as you would like, but we're just going to kind of flow between the two. And then we'll hold each one for a little bit longer after we're nice and warmed up. So bending the front knee, sinking the hips forward, and then sending those hips back just enough to straighten the front leg as much as you can. And just kind of finding your breath here, getting used to the movement between these two positions, and just starting to soften those hips. Soften the hamstring. Awesome, you guys. Let's do a few more. Into the lunge and then into those half splits. Maybe starting to flex the foot a little bit, take things a little further. And then once you come back into the lunge this time, I want you to stay here. So sink your hips down and forward. Your hands can stay on the mat. That's completely fine. You can even rest your upper body on your front knee. But if you want to take things a little bit further, perhaps you want to bring the hands up to the knee. But we're still sinking those hips down and forward, getting all into that hip flex or the top of that left quad. And just starting to relax through the upper body here, all about those hips. Breathing. Awesome, you guys. So let's take one more inhale and then an exhale to bring your hands down. Let's send those hips back. Find your half splits. So straighten that front leg as much as you can. We're going to stay here for a few moments. So hands are going to be on either side of that front leg to help you balance. You really can keep your foot relaxed if that gives you a really good stretch. But if you want more, then you flex your foot. Pull those toes back towards your forehead. And then we're just going to stay for a few breaths here. So maybe as you inhale, you lift your chest up a little bit. And as you exhale, you could drop it down a little bit. And you could just lift the chest and lower the chest. And each time you bring it down, you might feel that stretch go a little deeper into that hamstring, the back of that leg. But just moving slowly or maybe not moving at all. Just find what works best for you. Awesome, you guys. So we're going to start to bend back into the front knee. So like we're coming into the lunge, but we're going to take things a little bit further. So heel toe your front foot over to the right side of your mat for lizard. So take your foot, that front foot, and turn the toes out a little bit to the sides. Put that foot at a bit of an angle. So your hands can come to the inside of that foot. They can be right under your shoulders. And we're still thinking about dropping the hips down and forward. So if you do want to rock side to side a little bit, you can, if that feels good. If it doesn't, just stay nice and tall, letting those hips come down. And if you want to maybe lift the hips up and then sink them down, you could also move in that way. But again, just whatever feels good for you. And then you could even find the forearms if you want to take this a little bit further. If you're feeling a lot of pressure in your back knee, just push the top of your foot into the mat and lift that knee up just a little bit. Give it a nice little break, and then you can drop it back down again. So taking a few more moments in our lizard, getting into that right hip. Well, you know what? Both hips, I'll be honest, both hips. And then we're going to do a little bit of a twist in this position too. So if you were on your forearms, come back up onto your hands. Take your left hand and rest it on the edge of your mat. Your right hand is going to come to your knee, your right knee, and you're just going to kind of look behind you or just look to the right and just kind of twist. And you can just hold it. You can keep it nice and steady, or you can kind of rotate forwards and then to the right. Just a nice little twist, but keeping those hips coming down towards the mat. And just breathing the whole time. Opening up those hips here. Awesome work, you guys. So bring your hands, both of them, back down to the mat and start to heel toe your foot to the middle. So we're going to get into our hamstring one more time. So send your hips backwards, half splits, taking a few breaths here. Straightening that leg as much as you can, maybe flexing the foot, maybe relaxing the foot, and then just dropping the chest towards that leg if you want extra. But just being somewhere where you feel stretch the back of that hamstring. Awesome, you guys. So with your next inhale, bend back into your front knee and then start to bring that foot over to the left side this time. So we're going to come into pigeon. So you can scoot that foot so that it's nice and close to your left hip if you want it. Or you can start to bring the foot a little bit further away from the hip as you feel more open through the hips. But don't worry about going too far. We're still warming up. So pigeon pose. If your right butt cheeks or your hip is way off the mat, you could take your block or your cushion and slide it underneath. Fold forward if you want to, or stay sitting up nice and tall, but just trying to relax that front leg. Relax your upper body. Taking a few breaths. Awesome, you guys. So stay for one more breath here in pigeon. Or a little bit longer if you feel like you need it. No worries. And then climbing yourself all the way back up. So we're going to, find our way back into our half splits. But if you needed to come back into tabletop like I just did, you can definitely do that. But that right foot's going to come forwards again. Hands are going to find the mat, and then you're sending your hips backwards. All right, you guys. So this class, this yoga practice today is splits prep. So we are not going to be coming all the way down into splits. So if you are in half splits and you've got a really big bend in this front knee, you're going to stay here today. You're just going to work on bringing a bit more length into that hamstring. So you're going to stay here. If you feel like you could take things further into something I like to call 3/4 length splits, you can start to slide your front foot forward. So I ask that you have a few cushions or blocks or something like that just to help you get a little bit more comfy in this pose. So if you've got a prop or two, I've doubled up my cushions because they like to shrink, and I'm going to place them underneath my front thigh. So if you can slide your cushions or your blocks so that they're resting underneath your front thigh, go for it, bringing your hands to the floor though to support you, and then just adjusting your legs. So if you can't touch down onto your prop, that's completely fine. You're gonna have to hold yourself up with your arms, but just don't go too far. Go as far as feels good, okay, you guys? So you could be in half splits, or you could be using your cushions or whatever to bring you into a 3/4 length splits. Or maybe you're somewhere in between, not using any props. But once you're here, you guys, we're actually going to take our hands and walk them in a bit. So if you can actually lift them off the ground, you can, or just rest them on your cushions. But think about just pulling your shoulders backwards a bit. Backwards a bit. This one is a little bit more into that hip flexor. So if you're tighter in the hip flexor, this might be a lot, a really awesome stretch. And then if you want to try to actually fold forward in this one, more about the hamstring that way if you fold forward. So again, you can adjust where your front foot is if you feel like you can take it further. If not, if you like folding, or maybe you're somewhere in between, get a little comfy. We're going to take a few breaths here, you guys. I'm going to stop talking. And you're just going to breathe. Awesome work, you guys. So you've made it into perhaps half splits or 3/4 splits today. Congratulations. We have to go to the other side now. So how do we get out of this? I don't know. You could lift up and slide your leg back in. You could roll off to the side and gracefully move your cushions off of your mat. Find your way back onto your hands and knees. And then let's try the other side. Let's get into that left, or, the right hip, but the left foot coming forward. So starting in that nice low lunge, and we're going to just flow back and forth from our half splits and our lunge. So you move at your own pace. You move with your own breath. And just kind of open up the hips again. Noticing if this side maybe feels different because we've already stretched out the other side. Maybe it's a lot tighter. I don't know. But just feel whatever you're feeling. Breathing in any way that feels good. And just shifting the weight forwards and backwards. Awesome, you guys. Once you come back into the low lunge, let's stay here for a few breaths. So reset, find your balance. Keep your hands on the mat if you want to, or maybe use your cushions. Or perhaps you're bringing your hands up to your knee. Hips are sinking down and forward. So I know that you're probably going to want to try and hold yourself up. Try to resist doing that and just let the hips fall. They're only going to go as far as your body will let them. So you don't have to worry about falling all the way down into the splits. But just soften through the shoulders here, you guys. I know this stretch is nice and big, intense for that hip flexor. Awesome work, you guys. Start to bring your hands down if they're not on the floor. Find your half split. So send the hips back just enough to straighten the front leg as much as you can. And then decide if you want to flex the foot or relax the foot. And then maybe lifting the chest up and down. With each inhale, I like to lift up. And exhale, lower down, and just move with your breath or stay nice and still. Whatever feels best on that hamstring, even that calf. Awesome work, you guys. So with your next inhale, start to shift your weight forward again, back into your lunge, and then heel toe that left foot over to the edge of your mat this time. So turn your foot so that your toes are pointing out to the corner a little bit. Hands are going to come to the inside of that front foot. And again, we're still sinking those hips down towards the mat. So you could move a little bit, send the hips back, and then drop them down. Or maybe you can keep your hips down and then rock side to side. If it feels good, or just stay nice and still. And taking a few more moments here, maybe finding the forearms if you haven't already. And softening those hips here. And then if you are on your forearms, you can bring your hands back up onto your mat. Adding that twist if you've got it. So right hand's going to find the edge of your mat. Just lean over to the right a bit. Left hand's going to find that knee. So again, you can maybe drop the hips and look behind you or to the side and then maybe lift up. Or maybe you just want to hold it here in the twist. Pulling that left shoulder back, and whatever your hips like, whatever they need, you know your body best. So just play around with it, finding what works best for you. Awesome, you guys. So start to bring those hands back down onto your mat. Heel toe your foot to the middle and then send your hips backwards. One last chance for half splits before we actually settle in to our half or 3/4 split. So just a few breaths here. Awesome work, you guys. Just another full breath. And then you can start to bend back into the front knee. Bringing that front foot over to the right side this time, setting up for your pigeon. So bring that heel towards the hip if you need it. Sending that back leg behind you. And then you can stay sitting up nice and tall, or you could melt it down. Just a few moments here. Softening the breath. Maybe closing your eyes. Beautiful, you guys. Start to make your way up or staying a little bit longer if it's calling for you. But bringing that foot back onto the mat or coming out into tabletop again like we did last time. But grabbing those cushions or those blocks if you've got them, slide them underneath your front quad or your front thigh, and then either stay in the half splits. Again, you don't need your props really if you're staying in the half, but if you're sliding that foot forward at all, any amount, grab your cushions. Maybe you can utilize them by sliding the front foot forward, the back foot back, and just sliding around here so that I can stay on my mat, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. So adjust your cushions or your blocks so they're underneath so you feel balanced. You can bring your hands to either side or onto your cushions, but we're just going to keep the chest nice and proud here for a few breaths. So as you sit tall here and you let your hips kind of just fall towards the mat, you're probably feeling a lot through that hip flexor still, even that quad and that hamstring, so the front of that leg. So just a few moments, sending those shoulders back. And then if you want to fold forward to take this further into the hamstring, you could do that as well. I find that folding forward is a lot easier for me because my hamstrings are a lot more open than my hip flexors. So this is a lot of hip flexor for me, but still good. So technically I should be staying up because, work on what you're not good at, right? But it's so comfy to just fold forward sometimes. Awesome work, you guys. Stay for another 2 or 3 breaths on this side. And then you can start to make your way out again. How do you gracefully get out of the splits? I don't know. Maybe roll to the side. Maybe push yourself up. Whatever feels best. Move your props, your cushions out of the way. And then just find a comfy seat. And you're probably going to want to hug your knees a little bit here. Rock them side to side a little bit. You could even lay down on your back. But just bring those hips back in out of any sort of stretch. Finding a comfy seat when you're ready for it, if you're ready for it. But I just want to mention one thing, you guys. Splits is a work in progress. So if that was really difficult for you, I encourage you to do it more than once a week, more than once a month. It's great stretches. We're getting into our hip flexors, our hamstrings. Even if splits is not a goal for you, it's just really good for your lower body, all those stretches. And then you might notice that you just kind of get rid of 1 prop or 2 props and you just get a little bit more flexible. So again, I hope you guys liked it. Let me know in the comments below what you thought and have a great Friday, you guys. Namaste.